the second group and begin with the individuals in opposition or
What?
I don't know,
Against rescission.
to 21, 22, and 23.
There you go.
Yeah. If you could please form a line. I'm sorry, if you don't have some humor in life, you're not going to get through it. So today is going to be one of those days for me and some of us.
You said opposition.
Opposition.
Opposition to what?
Opposition to
Here's the
rescinding.
problem. I'm seeing
Opposition to
both sides
rescinding.
lining
Yeah, I
up.
know. It depends on what they're opposed to.
Yeah. Opposition to rescinding
Throw them all
or
in together and just put a limit on it.
Yep, just give them 30 minutes.
30 minutes?
just go ahead.
Whoever can get up here in 30 minutes?
No,
Come out.
Let's do it this way.
I don't think we're going to have as many people this time. I think they pretty much beat it to
Okay, let me, I guess there's confusion. Can I have your attention, please? I guess there's confusion. Maybe I have confusion too. How many people wish to speak on item 21, 22, or 23? If we can get you all in 30 minutes, then we'll go ahead and just form the line. And if you can form it over to my right, I'd appreciate it. And remember, 3 minutes in comments, and let's not try to rehash whatever we've already said before. If we're ready, we'll,
Not going to be too bad. We had 33 before. I don't think we got 20 this time.
okay. Go ahead.
My name is Brock Neely, resident of Porterville, address on record. Madam Mayor, I respectfully request a point of personal privilege to speak to items 21, 22, 23 on the agenda when the items come to the floor for discussion. Due to the animus that is being used to impugn the chair and my personal integrity, I feel I have the right to defend myself and explain my intent in requesting the proclamation.
We're not going to be addressing those prior to those items coming up because they're going to be coming up pretty much soon. So if you can just go ahead and make whatever comments you want right now,
Okay.
I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
First of all, I want to give these to the council. Mr. Lawless.
Mr. Lawless.
I'd like to bring the attention to those items as reputable statistical reports that cannot be refuted from the CDC, NIH.
Okay,
What did it say about
I'm sorry, just a moment. I apologize.
Numbers never lie.
If we can please have, we're asking for respect from the individuals in our chamber to please, as we're discussing, I would ask the council to have the same respect for the residents in our community, please. Go ahead.
As to item 21, and the accusations that it was rammed through. This item was brought to the mayor on the Wednesday prior to June 4th, asked if it could be on the June 4th agenda. If not, it was fine to be on the subsequent agenda. Due to two other items being changed on that agenda, the agenda had to be amended. So as that procedure began, this item became part of the June 4th agenda. There was no ram through. Also, there was accusations that this was posted a week and a half to 2 weeks prior to that meeting. It was not. I didn't even conceive the idea until the Wednesday before that meeting. So any other accusations are impugning my integrity. As to item 22, how can you rescind something you did not vote on? According to Robert's congressional procedures, you cannot rescind an item that you did not vote on. As to item 23, I am terribly offended that a proclamation is being replaced by a resolution. There is a difference in legal import on those two items. A resolution is a legal binding document that takes a vote of the legislative body for an enactment of legislation of some form. It stays in place until it's rescinded or superseded or sunsetted. Also, the wording of the resolution is offensive. Experts claim that my being is not a lifestyle. It is an orientation. So how can this be a goodwill and charity to all? Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Thank you, Mayor Garola. My name's John Coffey. Address is on record. For the benefit of the two newest council members, it might be beneficial to have a brief history of how we have arrived at this point we are here at tonight. 5 years ago, the Porterville City Council passed a resolution, and that's a quote, in support of Proposition 8. It was the only city council in the state of California to do so. All 5 members of the council at that time voted in the affirmative. As you know, both the California state courts and the federal courts have since ruled that Prop 8 was and is unconstitutional. During the course of those trials, the courts, both state and federal, have determined that the LGBT community is a quote-unquote suspect class, meaning that any legislative action regarding this group is subject to quote-unquote heightened scrutiny. I'm sure that the city attorney can explain what that means if you ask her. Then in 2009 or so, the council attempted to pass a resolution, again in quotes, in opposition to SB 54 by Senator Mark Leno of San Francisco. That motion failed on a 2-3 vote. By the way, the same council members who pushed for the Prop 8 action, the Prop 54 action, or the SB 54 action, excuse me, are tonight pushing for the rescission of the quote-unquote proclamation regarding the month of June. By the way, how do you take back an action that has already expired and never voted on? Tonight we are here to begin with an anti-LGBT action being proposed by a member of this council to rescind a proclamation that recognized the month of June as LGBT Pride Month. In my opinion, and I'm no lawyer, but all of these actions taken together show a clear animus by the council toward members of the LGBTQ community. When is enough enough? Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Hi, my name is Trina Leon. 2 things I want to address. First, what the mayor of Porterville did was wrong by proclaiming June 2013 as Gay Pride Month. What you did, Mayor, was abused your power for your own personal agenda. You, Mayor of Porterville, made it your own personal proclamation. I was on the website of the City Council, and there was something I noticed. And it said in a request for the proclamation, I made a copy of it, and it said, presenting them with an official proclamation from the City Council. The City Council did not do this proclamation. You did, Mayor. You, the Mayor of Porterville, owe the fellow City Councilor members an apology for what you did. And also the community of Porterville, you owe us an apology. The City Council speaks for the voice of our community, and how the City Council members refuse to sign the proclamation speaks volumes to me on where they stand. Secondly, Mayor, you said you thought this would bring our community together. How could this be when we, the Christians of this community, believe God's holy Bible is true? For us to accept this proclamation would be calling God's word, the Holy Bible, a lie. We all will give account to God for our days here on earth. The one thing we must do is show love to mankind, show love to each other. I love each and every one of you here with God's love, but I cannot support in my Christian belief what I know is wrong. I ask the City Council, when you vote today, to please vote with your conscience and your convictions. And please vote to rescind. Yes, I said, please vote to rescind the proclamation that our mayor did without the consideration for our council members or our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, please. As I said, we're in chambers. We're not going to have any.
Anne Marie Wagstaff, 382 North Indiana Street. I am a lesbian, I am a Christian, and Porterville is my home. Listening to the debate this past month and a half, I have felt as if the threads of my soul were being yanked and tugged in all directions. Many silences have been broken, and only time will tell whether our community has grown. So what is left to say? The replacement resolution you will consider tonight describes Porterville as a community of caring and spiritual people. After moving to Porterville in 1996, it took me 14 years to find a Christian church in this town that could accept and welcome me as a child of God without asking me to hide my lesbianism or to accept it as sinful. I do not consider that caring or spiritual. I do not consider that Christian. And yes, I know what the Bible says about homosexuality. I also know that Christians do not agree on the meaning of those few brief passages. At one time, I studied everything written about them in order to respond to Christians who used the Bible to condemn people I love. But when I recognized the hate generated by those debates, I realized that by participating in them, I was doing the same thing my opponents were doing. I was using the Word of God to win a human argument, and that is not what one does with Scripture. For Christians, the Bible is a sacred text. It is not to be wielded as a weapon against any of God's children. As you consider your votes tonight, remember that what you do and say here is of enormous consequence, particularly to future generations of youth in our community. Many of the LGBT speakers who have come before you, including me, were once those youth. And we can tell you what we have learned from our experience. It gets better when we don't have to hide who we are. It gets better when we are treated with dignity and fairness. It gets better when we work for justice, when we find allies with whom to build a better future. And because we know it gets better, we will not stop. Members of the council, do your job. It's very simple. Serve all the citizens of Porterville. If you choose to rescind the proclamation, you are denying due process and equal treatment to one valuable segment of this community. You are choosing to discriminate based on personal convictions that public officials are required to exclude for the common good. Even worse, you will sow seeds of further division and intolerance. Porterville deserves better. Again, I say to you, do your job so that future generations can say of us, in 2013, in Porterville, California, it got better.
Thank you. I don't want to have to say it again. Please, go ahead.
My name is Catherine Hall. My address is 158 South Lindero in Lindsay. And I'd like to speak to item 22. I am a pediatrician. I've been practicing in Tulare County for the last 35 years. I've got a husband and 3 children and grandchildren. I serve on the Tulare County Suicide Prevention Task Force. I've served on the school board in Lindsay in the past for 9 years. The only purpose that rescinding the proclamation would serve would be to show animosity toward the LGBT community. There is no benefit to anyone to rescind this. I would like to remind the council and the public that being lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender is a normal variation of human sexuality, of humanity. And since I've gotten to know more LGBT people in Tulare County, you know, I can see that there is a reason that it is not pathological. It is just a normal condition. That doesn't mean it's the way everyone is. That's the way some people are, and everybody's different. So there is really no reason to express this kind of animus against a group. there's good data showing that LGBT people are not pathological. There are arguments by others that medical conditions which might have different incidence in different populations should govern the way government looks at groups, and that's really quite unreasonable because every different population has different risks, and these are medical matters. These are not matters to discriminate on rights on. So I would really encourage you to not rescind this proclamation. The impact on young people growing up when they hear this kind of very unpleasant talk about them is very, very damaging. And the people may mean well when they are saying they love homosexuals, but to hear that the religious arguments about it after being told that they're loved is just very, very damaging to especially our young people. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, please.
My name is Christine Burkhart, and I live on the 1400 block of West Jean Street in Porterville. I could waste my time trying to sway your decision with logic, hyperbole, or angry declarations, as some did last week or last meeting. I could call you gentlemen out for acting like petty teenagers with a grudge, because in some ways that's what you have done. But why waste time on all that when I no longer have faith that you will do the right thing? Should you decide to rescind the proclamation, I will give you one example of a person who greatly deserves the recognition you seek to take away. By rescinding this proclamation, you are rescinding recognition of a person dear to my heart, a mentor who stood by me after the death of my brother by a DUI driver in 1999. This woman encourages me in my writing and praised me in recommendation letters to a multitude of universities when I sought my BA and my MA. I can talk to her honestly and forthrightly about my depression, my father's illness, and the dissatisfaction I have felt over my life as a bullied fat child growing up in this town. This woman is Anne Marie Wagstaff, a professor of English at Porterville College. She stands by all of her students, LGBT or not, and tries to provide each with the tools they need for their lives as students and beyond. Like other members of our LGBT community in Porterville, she has inspired me to speak up against those who would stigmatize me and others like me simply because our bodies and lives do not conform to what others want. She, like so many others, are special because of what she has done to help. Rescind the proclamation if you will, but such a decision will not stop me from proclaiming on my own, on behalf of the non-LGBT community, we are proud of you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
My name is Cindy Dominguez.
Can you bring it down a little bit? Thank you.
Cindy Dominguez. My address is 229 South Wellington Place.
I'm sorry, what was it?
229
No,
South.
not your address, the name.
Cindy Dominguez. I just wanted to address this, Mayor, from your standpoint. And just to remind you that as mayor, you were elected to represent the people of our community as a whole, just like the rest of the council members were elected to represent the people of our community as a whole. Yet at the last meeting that you handed out that proclamation that we're here talking about, 4 of the council members shared that they didn't agree nor support that proclamation that you presented and that you had done it without their support. As mayor and leader of this council, it was first your moral duty to listen and to heed the counsel of those elected to represent our community and for you to rightly represent our community. And second, it was your legal obligation to be in compliance with our city's charter, which states that official acts endorsed by the official seal may only be made by a majority of the council's approval. So I'm just here this evening to ask that you rescind the proclamation that was presented last month, not based on my religious beliefs, not based on my personal preference, but based on the fact that it was not a legally issued proclamation. It wasn't done the way our city charter said that it needed to be done. And I would also like to encourage you, because you said you're a woman of faith, you know, Proverbs 11:14 talks about our counsel, and it says, where there is no guidance, the people fall, but in the abundance of counselors, there is victory. And I don't know that 4 people is an abundance, but it's more than one, and it's, you know, to consider your council, the members that you have, is being a good leader. And I would challenge you to rise to that occasion and to be a great leader who doesn't just take into account a group, but as a whole, and listens to your council who we elected to represent us as well. Also, Proverbs 15:22 says, without consultation, plans are frustrated, but counselors of peace have joy. And so I just wanted to encourage you with that as well. And I hear a lot of this is about equality, and it seems that the Gay Pride Month, it really doesn't give homosexuals any legal rights or anything more than what they already have. This is just basically more about trying to get people who don't agree with and who identify their behavior as wrong to say, we agree with you and it's okay. And to call it Gay Pride Month, it doesn't give them any more rights than they have already. They can still walk around and say, I'm proud to be gay.
Time's up. Thank you. Please. Thank you.
My name's Lisa Smith. I'm not that good at speaking. I'm not going to stand up here and wag my finger like you guys are dogs, like other people have done. I'm choosing to read a letter that I had published today. Ding dong, Doma's dead. Good riddance, Prop 8. Ideally, all the bigotry and stigmatization associated with marriage, equality, and homosexuality will follow suit, but that is only in an ideal world. However, Porterville City Council should follow suit. There's absolutely nothing to gain from rescinding a proclamation for a Pride Month that would have already occurred by the time they reach a vote. Therefore, it should be removed from the council agenda. Porterville is not a city for itself. It is a part of California. Although members of our city would like to believe in small town values, homophobia should not be one of those podunk values. Therefore, although city council members are certainly entitled to their own opinions, they should follow greater laws of California when it comes to governmental duties. Council members have agreed to follow the laws of the land. Well, the law of the land is that, quote, there is no rational basis for limiting the designation of marriage to opposite-sex couples, end quote, Perry versus Schwarzenegger. In the same way, there is no rational basis for denying a proclamation to a group due to their sexual and gender orientation. There is nothing to gain from regressive politics, and council members should accept that the mayor acted within the scope of her duties and move on to other things. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Mayor, Councilman, my name is Brad Davis, 261 North Larson. With regard to the mayor's proposal, there has been a lot of passionate debate from both sides. Some of the exchange has degenerated into name-calling and outright misrepresentation, which is, to put it mildly, unfortunate. Real Christians oppose hatred, whatever the source. We stand firmly in our opposition, whether the source of hatred is within the Christian community, like Westboro Baptist Church, which falsely teaches as doctrine that God hates gay men and women. We also oppose people who choose to falsely label Christians as bigots, hate mongers, and homophobes. To blindly accuse us in this manner is to be just as guilty as the very crimes you would attach to us, and every bit as hypocritical. The vast majority of Christians oppose Mayor Gurola's proclamation, not out of fear, hatred, or bigotry, but for 2 very different reasons. The first is out of loving concern for any and all individuals whose actions might cause them to spend eternity relationally separated from God. And the second is the fact that the mayor's proclamation violates the teachings of our faith. We believe that the God we worship and serve is the embodiment of pure, perfect love. His word gives us hope and direction and the promise of eternal life. That word, which is the foundation of our faith, also teaches us that certain actions or behavior will lead to eternal separation from God. We are also taught that his word must be shared with all people. So for the followers of Christ to believe these principles and do nothing is tantamount to a denial of our faith. It must be recognized that most Christians have family members and or friends who are gay, and the vast majority continue to love them no matter what. Rather than fear or hatred, the feelings we experience most are an odd combination of anxiety and hope because we want the best for all people. God does too, and we believe the best life has to offer can only be realized when one is in a personal, loving relationship with God, remaining true to his words. Christian opposition to behavior God has declared wrong should not be the result of a judgmental heart or a sense of moral superiority, for we too are sinners. As such, we know that apart from the relationship we have with God through Christ, we would be in huge trouble. We recognize that certain individuals and institutions within the Christian community do not conduct themselves thus. These people and institutions we oppose with every fiber of our being, just as we oppose Mayor Garola's proclamation. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Jessica Mahoney, Porterville. I don't know. I'm glad there's a doctor in the house so someone can get their ears checked. It's not your proclamation. Anybody in the city of Porterville can make a proclamation, and the mayor just signs it. I think we went over this 100 times. And some people that think the mayor didn't do her job right or didn't, do the proclamation right, well then, if that's true, then we would have to rescind every proclamation this seating body has ever done. And we don't vote on the mayor. We don't vote on the mayor. We vote on the council. And then they played a little, musical chair thing per the charter. But this is just getting tiresome. And, if people watch the news, June 26th, the Supreme Court said we have the same rights as every other citizen in the United States. There's no us, there's no we, there's no Christian, there's no not, the United States of America. We're all equal under the Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Maria Innes, 690 Sandra Circle, Porterville. I've been a teacher in this community, Lindsay, and here over 21 years. And one of the curricula that they ask us to incorporate in our teaching at every level is teaching tolerance. And I think that outweighs so much. Some of us wear the rainbow delegation bracelet to let kids know it's okay. We're not proclaiming, we are not saying this is the way you need to be. I don't know, my sexuality is my own business. I am a supporter of the community, LGBT. I am a supporter of everybody. I think it's important. My classroom last year was touched with suicide. And I know that the members of this community that we honored with the proclamation have been working tirelessly on the anti-bullying program that can reach everybody, not just the LGBT community, people who have different body shapes, whatever. And I'm talking against rescinding it in that manner. And also, we don't always represent everybody. I mean, during the Holocaust, you had to ask yourself, who is going to oppose? If not me, then who? And if not now, when? Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Good evening, Mayor Garola, council members. My name is Sidney Pedraza. My address is on record. I'm going to speak extemporaneously, just real quickly regarding the consideration of the process whereby city proclamations are approved. It's not a bad idea to visit that kind of a subject. I think there's some wisdom in really looking at this. There's a lot of things. I think all of us in this room can admit that at one point or another, we missed something, we overlooked something, and thanks to an outside person who pointed it out, we were able to see that, hey, you know what, I did miss it. Thank you for pointing it out because I hadn't seen it the way that you did it. So I think that 21 is something that, you should look at. As far as the consideration rescinding the city proclamation of the LGBT Pride Month for June 2013, when I was here the last time, I have no qualms about saying that I'm a Christian. I don't have any qualms about saying that I believe what the Word of God says, the Holy Bible. I have no qualms about saying that I believe what God has stated in there. But I think if you recall last time that I was here, Mayor Gorola and council members, if number 22 read tonight, consideration rescinding the city proclamation of heterosexual marriages Pride Month, I would still stand before you tonight to say rescind that, because here's what I see happening with taking one group. There's no question, that it's an issue about sexual preference or orientation or lifestyle, that if you give one whole month to one single group that does good deeds, you only have 11 months left when we have more groups, more than 11 here in the whole city of Porterville, that we could not assign them sufficient months to recognize them and to give them the proclamation that they so well deserve themselves. So on the basis of that, just, I think number 23, it's a good idea to consider a single resolution that would encompass all of these groups. My reason for that, again, nothing against, people choosing to live their sexual lifestyle different than mine, but I just think that number 22 really is discriminatory. It leaves out all these other groups that should also be recognized for doing just as much as this particular group, if not more. So I would just request that you would reconsider, taking that out so that it doesn't become discriminatory and leave out all of these other good deed doer groups that we have in our city, for which we don't have enough months left in the year to cover them. So again, I just request that you would take a look at that, revisit that, and then I don't, what I have seen in the argument that has gone on in the past couple of sessions and even tonight, when people can't win the argument, they start attacking you personally. They give us, labels. They call us, homophobes. They call us that we hate. That's not true. That's not true. I could very easily work with somebody who's gay. I just don't agree with their sexual lifestyle. So I just would ask you to consider who's doing the, attack of or mischaracterization of what group. And you'll notice that we who are Christians have not done that to them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, please.
Mayor Gorola and Councilman, my name is C.C. Townsend. The LGBT proclamation bears the common and the official seals of the city of Porterville. According to the city charter, these type of documents must first be approved by a majority vote of the council. The LGBT proclamation only has the approval of the mayor. This is a violation of the city charter. On these grounds alone, the proclamation must necessarily be rescinded in order to maintain the integrity of the Porterville City Council. To add to that, I would urge this council to understand that the core issue of this debate is our present and future ability to exercise our freedoms of speech, of conscience, and of religious expression in the marketplace. We still at present are protected by law when we voice our religious convictions regarding the homosexual lifestyle. But even under that protection, look what's happening. Our freedoms are being aggressively removed by those whose battle cry is to silence our voice, to remove our voice out of the public square. When this type of intolerant worldview takes hold, it can degenerate into a type of fascism. Outrageous, you might say? Consider an assertion by President Obama's appointee to the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, Chai Feldblum. She said, private thoughts and objections to the homosexual issues should not be tolerated. She is now in the position to enforce her opinion against all employers in the United States with the backing of the President of the United States. For example, Elaine Huguenin, a small photography business owner, she declined to photograph a homosexual union, stating that her Christian belief is in traditional marriage only. Soon after, she was charged with discrimination by the Human Rights Commission on behalf of the lesbian couple and faced a $7,000 fine for violating the rights of the lesbian couple who were demanding she perform a service that violated her conscience. A youth pastor, Stephen Boysen, wrote a letter to the editor in his town stating his objections to the homosexual lifestyle. There was a complaint filed by the homosexual man, and Stephen was brought before the Human Rights Tribunal and charged with a hate crime. He was fined $10,000, which was paid to the person that brought the complaint and told to write a public apology and warned not to write anything in objection to the homosexual lifestyle again. Scott Brokey owns a small printing business and chose not to print homosexual material for a couple because it went against his Christian belief. He was brought before the Human Rights Commission and charged with discrimination, fined $5,000, and told that as long as his business served the public, he was advised not to refuse any service to anyone. It is not equality the homosexual community wants. They want to silence religious expression and anyone else who opposes their lifestyle. I would urge this council to not participate in this systematic removal of our constitutional freedoms. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Let him finish.
Who's running the
Dennis
meeting from
Townsend.
out there?
Your Honor, move to anybody who wants to speak, let them speak.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Okay, Dennis Townsend, 44 North B.
Can we have, I'm sorry, I apologize, but can we please have some quiet? Thank you.
So much of what's been debated and reported in the past several weeks, although very important, has really missed the point of the opposition to the proclamation. The procedure for approving and issuing proclamations is not well defined and not specifically addressed in the city charter. Perhaps because proclamations are not legally binding and do not create legal issues affecting the citizens of Porterville. Unfortunately, the simple process became tainted recently, and because that happened, nobody wants to see it happen again. I trust you'll come up with a way to have at least 3 council members consent or a unanimous consent prior to issuing future proclamations. More importantly, though, I want to urge you to rescind the proclamation which was made unilaterally by Mayor Garola in June. The proclamation was made, a document was issued, and that's done. And I'm not suggesting you physically take back the certificate. I do believe, however, that it's the duty of the council to rescind the proclamation and set it straight in the record so that the council's actions will be in line with your governing document, which is the city charter. 4 of 5 council members did not sign the proclamation. 3 of those 4 made lengthy statements describing their reasons. Those and the mayor acknowledged that she was acting alone in making the proclamation. In spite of this, it was delivered on a certificate bearing the title City of Porterville. The language included, "Do hereby proclaim the month of June 2013 as LGBT Pride Month in the City of Porterville." Although all agree the mayor acted alone without council consent, the proclamation was made on city time, on city stock, and on behalf of the City of Porterville. Section 9 of the city charter reads, quote, "All powers granted to and vested in the City of Porterville by law or by the provisions of this charter shall, except as herein otherwise provided, be exercised by the council." Section 12 goes on to state that the consent requires a 3-vote majority. In other words, no single council member, including the mayor, has the authority to act alone on behalf of the city. That is reserved for the full council. Section 4 specifically directs that the authority to use both the common seal of the city, the oranges and the leaves, and the official seal, the foil stamp, is reserved for the City of Porterville alone. That does not include any one member, but a majority of the council. By the inclusion of the City of Porterville title and the language declaring the proclamation for the City of Porterville, and the inclusion of both the common and official seals of the city, the proclamation did indeed become city business. I've been to enough council meetings to understand that this council is concerned about process and proper procedure, and to know that you want to get it right. And I'm confident that none of you wish to operate outside the parameters of the city charter. You will have the opportunity to correct the immediate issue in just a few minutes by voting to rescind the proclamation made by the mayor in June, and I urge you to do so. And in this way, the mistake will be corrected in the record, and then you may address the procedure itself.
Time's expired.
So that similar incidents do not occur in the future.
Time's up. Time's up. Thank you.
Thank you. They took about 10 seconds of my
Thank you.
time.
Thank you. Next, please.
Who's running this meeting?
Please. What?
Who's running this?
I already told everybody to please stop. We've got them on both sides, so if we can please do this in an orderly manner so that we can get through this and get to where everybody wants, and that's the vote. Go ahead.
Is that what everybody wants?
Good evening,
I don't
Mayor,
know.
Councilman, and those in attendance. My name is David Harris.